I'm here with Harvard Business School professor Mihir Desai to talk about the impact of tax reform on competitiveness. Professor Desai, thanks so much for having us.
My pleasure.
This is the 5th year of the competitiveness project and report. Tax reform is the focus for this report. Why did you choose, or why did the team of professors choose to make tax reform the focus this year?
I think tax reform is the great unexploited opportunity we have to change the game at this point. We've been monkeying around with monetary policy for a long time, basically pushing on a string at this point. And tax policy is actually the great opportunity to do something that can actually move the economy onto a different trajectory. That's the first reason. The second reason is it's been a long time since we've done tax reform. It's been 30 years. And during that time, other countries have modernized their system. The economy has changed dramatically, and we have basically the same tax system we had 30 years ago. As a consequence, there are a lot of global realities which our tax system just doesn't match up with. So there's a huge opportunity, which of course is also a reflection of that great disjunction between what we have and what we should have.
When it comes to corporate tax reform, we've seen a real divergence between the U.S. and changes elsewhere. You noted we're 10 percentage points higher than the average OECD rate. Why haven't we had any progress in that arena, especially when there seems to be a bit of a consensus?
Yeah, so that's a real problem for us.
Yeah.
That high statutory rate means several things. One, it makes our investment incentives less good. It makes firms want to switch profits around the world. I think the reason why we haven't done anything so far is because we have the worst in some ways of both worlds, which is we have a high statutory rate, and yet firms are able to figure out ways to not pay as much in taxes. So we have low average rates. The consequence of that is people who say, well, corporate tax rates should be lower, can say, the opposition says, well, no, the average rates are lower. And people who say corporate tax rates should be higher can always say, no, statutory rates are too high. So it's that mixed up message. The truth is, it's a broken system. We have the worst of all worlds, high statutory rates, and then firms responding to it by doing all kinds of crazy things.
Right, and let's talk about some of the things they're doing. We had a lot of tax inversions. We got some pushback this year on that. Cash held overseas. What can we do to pull back some of those workarounds?
Yeah, so those are all symptoms of a very big, deep problem. And that big, deep problem has two pieces, one of which you highlighted. The first is a high rate, a rate that's significantly higher than our peer countries. The second is our worldwide system of taxation, where we tax income no matter where it's earned. And that is out of line with where the rest of the world is. The consequence of that is that if you're a US company, A, you want to keep cash abroad. We now have at least probably $2 trillion abroad. One company alone, like Apple, has probably $200 billion in Ireland by itself. That is a disincentive to bring it back to the United States because that would trigger a tax. The second piece of it is that as a consequence of that, nobody wants to be a US corporation. And the way out of that is to sell yourself to a foreign company. The inversions are just the tip of the iceberg on that. Those are the high-profile deals where companies look like they're leaving. The truth is it's happening all the time because foreign companies are preferred acquirers of US assets because they can effectively take the US companies and expatriate them. So it's really a multidimensional problem. It's the rate is too high, and this worldwide system is just not in sync with the rest of the world. The good news is, Nicole, that I think people understand it now. And there's actually consensus about the fact that we're out of step and that we need to reduce the rates. So I think what the new administration has a real opportunity to do is to mobilize and galvanize the forces that already believe this and push through something big.
We know this has been a big focus for presidential candidate Donald Trump, talking about companies moving elsewhere. To what degree does his rhetoric impact some of the policy changes that could lie ahead, and likewise for Hillary Clinton?
Yeah, so I think it's really unfortunate, and it's in some sense on both sides, which is we've come to demonize multinational firms who choose to do things around the world. And that's really unfortunate because multinational firms who prosper around the world actually are good for the American economy. So somehow we've come to believe that the opposite is the case. Well, when they shift things over there, that's bad for us. It'll be bad for some people, but actually it's great for us. And it's great for the US economy to have global firms headquartered here who are prospering around the world. In some sense, think about the alternative, which is our firms are only at home and they're locally very good but globally uncompetitive. That's terrible for us. So we've kind of caught ourselves into a protectionist loop here, where people are saying, well, gosh, when those companies succeed abroad, that's bad for us. And the empirical evidence is the opposite. When they succeed abroad and invest abroad, they invest more at home as well.
The last question on corporate tax reform, it seems, again, there is consensus. This has been a priority for President Obama. He hasn't been able to get anything done. I know you talked a little bit about some of the tension about why we're not moving forward, but what's the first step to corporate tax reform?
Well, so I do think, someone has got to be really deeply committed to it. And I think the leadership in the Senate is bipartisan committed to it. So I think somebody's got to expend a lot of political capital. And the reason why it requires a lot of political capital is whenever you change corporate tax rates and you cut the rate, people are going to say, hey, sop to the big bad corporations. And so we've got to engage in a conversation which says, first off, it's not a sop to the corporations. When we change corporate taxes, that makes our workers' wages better. Second, when they actually succeed around the world, that's good for us domestically. Once we change that rhetoric and we say, actually, it's really great when our firms succeed around the world, then I think we can do reform in a much more positive way.
Professor Desai, thank you so much.
My pleasure.